Thank you, Acting President, and I'm pleased to rise to speak to the Local Government Bill 2019, having had many conversations in the last term about the Local Government Bill 2018. And by all accounts, in 2019 and 2020, the 2018 bill won. In fact, most people who came to speak to me said, I wish we could just have the old one. However, as Mr Grimley said, so many people just want this to happen. They want to see some of these reforms, but every time they see a new iteration, they feel that they have lost some of the positive reforms in place, either that they have been removed or that some other change to the 1989 bill has been put in place without any consultation. And I think really the government was actually congratulated by many of the organisations for the consultation that took place under the 2018 bill. I am not seeing the same plaudits and bouquets being offered this time round. In fact, there feels like there has been very little consultation, particularly considering the changes that have been made, and no one really understands why those changes have been made. Now, the bill says that that the bill is to make councils more accountable to their communities and improve councillor standards. And I think this is a very reasonable objective and something that obviously we all here support. And we understand that local government has changed since 1989. It's changed considerably. You know, we've gone from 210 small councils to now where we've got the 79 larger councils. Our populations have boomed. Councils are now managing infrastructure and delivering services that were probably never contemplated when the 1989 piece of legislation was implemented. You know, councils are dealing with billions of dollars each year, which means that they must be accountable. So I think certainly the reforms to this bill are necessary, and I'm supportive of the themes that underpin this bill, which is around autonomy, community confidence, improved conduct, improved service delivery and strong local democracy. But I have to say, I don't think this bill as it stands will achieve any of those objectives, honourable objectives that they are. As many of you, we have heard from multiple councils, councillors, council officers, community groups, peak bodies, concerned citizens, and most of them, and I'll make most of my comments about this, was directed at single ward structures. Now, we've already heard that the Victorian Electoral Commission opposed vehemently this single ward structure. In fact, they absolutely recommended that we had multi-ward structures. 2/3 of the local councils also want to see multi-ward structures. In my opinion, I don't even understand why we are changing this, if only that there would be for some political advantage. Now, I look at my ward in Yarra, which is a multi-council ward, and I have 2 independents and a socialist. Now, I find that having 3 representatives to me is actually really effective, and when I have attended actual community meetings just for my ward, I found that having the variety of councillors there has been very positive to the voice of those constituents being heard. Now, in contrast, when we look at the first past the post of single member wards, the winner takes all, we see something quite different. We see incumbency, we see that winner takes all approach, and I can look at Burundurra where all 9 wards have Liberal Party members. Now, that is not how the constituents of that council voted. 99% of them did not vote for for the Liberal Party councillors. However, that is what they've got. It's not proportional and it's not representative. And I take Mr Hayes's point that these are growing councils with growing levels of growing levels of constituents, but also growing levels of responsibility. As one of the people who wrote to me said that these the councillors are like, sort of almost like a company director, and they've got to be able to have a big view. And councillors are looking at, multi-billion-dollar budgets these days. So maybe we do need to pay our councillors more, because it is a big job. It is not a part-time, well, it is a part-time job, but it's not a small task, and it's something that we need to respect and also probably compensate to achieve the best representation that we can at this very important level of government. I would say that I would like to see my local government operating very well. I would like to see my local government operating to the best of its ability, given, I would say, the very increased responsibilities that local government has. In fact, even some of the increased responsibilities that local government will have as a result of this bill means that we want the best. And that probably goes on to another point of the bill, which is around education, and I'm very supportive of some training and education for people going in. I remember someone telling me that at the last council election, they asked the candidates in their ward, had they ever attended a local council meeting? None of them had actually attended a local council meeting. So I actually think if we want to encourage greater democracy. The reason we sacked Casey Council was because we said there wasn't enough democracy in Casey. So if we want to see increased engagement with our community, if we want to see increased engagement by our community with our local government and by our local councillors, then I agree that training should be a component of people running for local government. I'm very supportive of that part of this legislation. It's interesting that the donation reform that was in the 2018 bill, that was advocated and supported, that we saw changes to donation reform at this state level in this chamber, is not being adopted, and it is not being transferred onto local government. Everyone is scratching their head as to why that is not happening. Why we are pushing forward with this bill prior to IBAC. As I say, we have been considering this bill. I have been receiving submissions and representations about local government reform for at least 2 years. So now we are rushing this bill forward now for some, again, unknown reason, when everyone who has spoken to us, everyone who has made representations has said, why is this happening now? Why is this happening now? And what we don't see in this bill, and I think is a missed opportunity, was ways for ratepayers and electors to have more say in how their councils operate. This was an opportunity to do this. This was an opportunity to set up systems. This was an opportunity to set up better ways for constituents in our community to advocate to their councils, for complaint handling to be improved. That did not occur in this bill. The simplified franchise, which again, I think it's a solution looking for a problem. We never had any problem with ratepayers just being added to the electoral roll for the purposes of elections, but now we're saying no, they have to opt in. They have to actually fill in the form and do it themselves. Again, I'm scratching my head as to why these changes are being made. There are so many parts of this legislation that doesn't seem to be fixing anything, because it wasn't broke in the first place. Now, understand, that there are significant problems, and that is largely due to the considerable growth of the budgets of local council, which gives them that gives rise to corruption, that gives rise to mismanagement. And I do, commend the bill that it is addressing some of those issues. But in so many other areas, I think it's completely missing the point. And I'd just like to flag some of the amendments that have been, some have been circulated, some haven't, and we're not certain what's going to happen. We've heard the government may have a tranche of House amendments, but we haven't actually seen them yet. So it would be, well, I'll look forward to Dr. Cummings' contribution. She may be able to enlighten us as to what the government is planning in their House amendments. For the purpose of the coalition amendments, I have to say it was very kind and generous of Mr. Smith from the other place to visit us at our cross-party business meeting yesterday afternoon to speak to his amendments, to give us a bill briefing. I'd like to note that at no point did he provide us with a soft copy of those amendments. We were given effectively a draft page of amendments yesterday afternoon at 4:30 and said, here's the opposition's amendments. And again, really, it was unclear as to what they wanted to achieve. In fact, Mr. Smith himself did not actually understand what one of the amendments was on the page, and he was going to come back and get back to us about it. We're still waiting to hear from them. In fact, I have to say, the Greens, they distributed their amendments some time ago. The Greens have been providing briefings on their amendments, and I can't, I would like to thank them for that. And I'm very minded to support the vast majority of those amendments and of those proposals, because I think they actually go back to the 2018 bill in a lot of ways. They go back to what we're hearing from the VLGA, what we're hearing from the MAV, what we're hearing from the VEC, what we're hearing from all of my local government, all of my local councils. That is what we're hearing. But I would also like to just mention, and I appreciate Mr. Atkinson also speaking to this amendment from the Greens about encouraging 16 and 17-year-olds to be allowed to vote in local government elections. I support this, and I think this is a wonderful way to engage our young people in the political process. We know that our young people are not engaged anymore. We know that our young people walk past this building and don't even know what it is. They don't understand the 3 levels of government. There is very little very little engagement amongst young people with our political system. And in fact, in 2017, the Electoral Matters Committee investigated this exact question, and I distinctly remember that the minister was on that committee at the time. And he agreed that political engagement amongst young people was declining and was failing us. So by encouraging people to start getting involved, by encouraging people to take on an interest in what's happening in their local area, by getting involved in local government, I think has great merit, and I will certainly be supporting this. I'll look forward to listening to the rest of the contributions. I've enjoyed listening to all of the contributions today, and I think it's been really interesting hearing from all of the different parties that largely we all want the same thing. We want better run local government. We want better representation. I'm just not sure that all the components of this bill are going to achieve that.